Chris, we're excited, buddy. We're excited today at Ditch Digger CEO. Got an old friend of mine, Beth Hollenberg, that has been a great YPOer and a great leader as a woman leader that I've been around and here and there over the last probably 12, 13 years. I'm thinking, Beth, maybe 12 years, something like that. I met you originally, and we're just excited to have you, Beth. Welcome to Ditch Digger CEO.
Gary, I am thrilled to be here. I love the podcast, so thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And I gotta tell you, we do a lot of, we have a lot of great people on this podcast. We're very blessed, and YPO has helped that, right? Just us meeting, great leaders in YPO that have done things, need things to serve an industry. And I've watched you from the outside, really leading an industry that's just really emerging right now. And so we're getting really excited to talk about that. But we also like to talk about kind of your beginnings, right? Maybe we start with kind of the business you're leading for like
Yeah,
just 5 minutes, and then we go
yeah.
backwards into young Beth and yeah, kind of a little bit of your upbringing, your first part of your career, what led you to Everspring Partners that you're part of today.
So I always say to people, if you want to get to where I am, don't do what I did because it is such a twisting and winding path. Um, I run a company. I'm CEO of Everspring, and Everspring is a company that I co-founded. We partner with largely traditional universities to basically improve their outcomes. We can move programs online. We do a lot of marketing for them. We do a lot of strategic consulting. What sorts of programs should they launch? What are the populations that they'll attract? And how do they digitize a learning experience to actually not just be speaking at students, but engage them so that those students retain and graduate with a job?
Awesome. One quick question. Do you guys actually are able to look at, how students learn best? I mean, some students, depending on their aptitude, their personalities, right? I mean, does your technology is able to do some of that?
Absolutely. And as we go through this, one of the themes of my own path, and then I believe about education, is we have to stop talking about it as if it's one thing. As we roll
Mhm.
back, I ran one of the largest network of vocational schools, trade schools in the country before I founded Everspring, which works largely with top ranked universities. And so when we try to talk about it as one thing and students are one thing, as you know, we're all as different as could be. So we do look a lot at what enables different kinds of students to learn best. And because really what you're paying for is an outcome and an experience. And if you can't keep a student engaged, you don't get either one of those. So we do a lot of research on that.
That's awesome. And, I remember back, in the 80s, early 80s, when I was, late 70s, early 80s, I learned my business in the field, and I learned all about, the stuff that I do in paving and construction, all that by doing it, right? And by being out there working, sweating, and doing the work, right? And then as I was in the classroom in junior high school over that time, I was always bored, and I would lose interest. Heavy ADD in my opinion, right? I've never diagnosed, but for sure, I think I did. I think I have it still today. Okay, but back then, I feel like I got bored
Harry, most
fast.
successful people do.
Yeah, yeah, and so I was terrible in the classroom. I could be. I love math, and I was pretty good at math, but otherwise, I scored low in anything else. Biology, and unfortunately, history that I love today. I never was that excited about history back then, and I am today. But again, I feel like the ADD that I had, there was a different way of for me to learn probably that wasn't available back then. That kind of in my head said, I'm just not classroom material. I'm just gonna make my way through high school, pass or whatever, play some sports, and then go on to doing something, building a business or whatever, right? So I can see for me for sure it wasn't really available that there was a different way of learning. So I feel that there's many people, many kids out there that if we can grasp who they are and then teach them as to to that, it makes a big difference probably.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, if you can't be engaged, if you're not interested, there's going to be no learning that's going to happen. And the flip side is if you have somebody trying to teach that is teaching from a flat book, no experience, no engaging examples, the chance that you're really going to grab someone. At the end of the day, learning is about storytelling, it's about examples, it's about hooks and interest. And nowhere is that more important than the classroom. We've become expert at it in the media, but the
Mhm.
classroom still often lags behind.
Right. Oh, wow. So tell us the beginnings, Beth, kind of your background, your upbringing, and then into, what led you to this industry.
So I often say I was raised by lone wolf. So my mom actually died of cancer when I was 6.
Oh,
And I was raised by mostly just my father. My dad was a professor of medicine at UC San Francisco, which becomes really important in my career story because what that meant is that he taught at UC San Francisco and he rounded with his students, with patients at Stanford and at the Veterans Administration Hospital in San Francisco in the 70s and the 80s. Because he was a single dad and I was an only child, I often went to the San Francisco VA and would do his rounds with him. And it was an amazing, I mean, I was sort of became the mascot of very injured, very crazy veterans in the 1970s because bring this little girl into that medical center and it sort of softened everybody up. But I remember about age 13, way too cool for school. I felt really above it. I'm sort of a product of private education. And I was like, this is BS. And I went rounding with him. And I remember watching my father sit on the floor with the medical techs to talk to a veteran who was terrified of getting into basically an MRI machine. And he talked this guy into the MRI and they got him MRI'd. And I thought, all right, never mind. This guy is super cool and I'm going to stop with the attitude. So yeah, so I had this crazy upbringing uh,
yeah. What was your dad? Was it professor of what?
of cardiology.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, did a lot with cardiac care and cardiac research. So was an
Wow.
academic, but was a practitioner. And he always used to say, if you don't know the people that run the guts of the machine in your hospital, you cannot be an effective doctor. Doesn't matter where you were trained, right? So you get this duality that started for me really young that you can have all the book education in the world, but if you don't have humanity, if you can't get on the floor with a schizophrenic veteran, how good of a cardiologist are you? You're doesn't matter. If you don't know the surge techs that are doing the scheduling, if you don't know the medical assistants, the phlebotomists, the research techs, you're going to be less good at your job. And so so came through that kind of crazy upbringing. Um, Ended up going to Stanford for college, got a master's degree at Stanford, uh, and then went to Washington, D.C. to do what I thought was going to be, I was going to change the world. All big ambition and had never done anything. The equivalent, Gary, of you actually sweating in the field, hadn't actually done anything. So ended up joining a group that was consulting with large scalable federal programs, like taking Head Start from 15,000 to 20,000 sites, dealing with runaway and homeless youth programming nationwide. What are the corridors for runaway and homeless youth? Where do they go? Where do they live? Who's supporting them? So I got way in the field and spent about 2 years doing sort of federal consulting around how we support children and youth in the structures that serve them. Then decided you can't, I got my real world education and said, I want to go into policy. So went into policy, worked in policy for a couple of years, doing education reform, juvenile justice reform, social services reform, and then thought, nope, I actually want to make the law that rules the policy, that rules the programs that serve the people. So I went back to Stanford, got a law degree at Stanford,
This is that in your late 20s.
this is in my late 20s, and graduated realizing, went and did like a big firm stint, summered at the United States Attorney's Office, started doing some work for .com. So did all these kind of like different crazy law things, and then realized basically that the big law firm life, it just wasn't what I was meant to do, that I didn't want to do a job that anybody could do, that anybody with any personality could do, that any sort of peg right into the hole. You go to a good college, you go to a good law school, you go to a good law firm, you become a partner, and it just wasn't. it didn't feel personal. I didn't feel like it was where I could make a difference, and I didn't want to be somewhere where at the end of the day, it didn't matter what I brought to the job. Um,
Yeah.
so I ended up um, turning down my big law firm job. Panic. I remember sitting in my living room, like not just crying, but like weeping. Like, oh my God, all these Stanford law graduates that are going off to their very important things that they were doing. And I did a brief judicial clerkship. But I just felt like, all right, I'm the land of lost toys. I'm the thing that doesn't fit in. I'm gonna be that person out of that class. I'm gonna be like the big loser that everybody looks at and says, oh yeah, well, her. And I'd kind of come out doing all the things you're supposed to. I did law review and I had checked all my boxes like a good girl. And I just felt I wasn't where I was supposed to be. So did a bunch of temp work, went unemployed and thought, I have to find the thing that feels like me. And I really think the dumbest question that we ask young professionals is, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Because it assumes that they know the whole universe
Ah, yeah.
and they know themselves and they got their stuff together. And like, I'm now well into my 50s. I don't have my stuff together, right? You talk to a bunch of 40-year-olds, they're like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So it's a dumb question. So I sort of went on this 2-year quest. I talked to everybody. I was like trying to figure out what the building blocks were. What were the ingredients that were going to make me happy? And I wrote my dream job, and it was completely unrealistic. It was like ridiculous. I was things I wasn't even qualified to do. I wanted to be in for profit. I wanted to be involved in marketing. I wanted an office that overlooked the San Francisco Bay. I wanted it to be mission driven, but I wanted to use my law skills, but not too much law. It is the collection of the most incompatible things you've ever seen put together in a mashup, like a bad dish. Wrote it, like put it in a closet, read it to a couple people who are like, wow, girl, like you're in a bad place. You are like, you're never getting there. And wherever that is, that thing doesn't exist. And then in the middle of that, 3 people, because I put it out there. These are the ingredients. I have no idea if the job exists. I was humiliated. I ran into a
What
law.
were a few of those ingredients? Just give us a few of them.
Oh, I wanted what I thought was incompatible. I wanted to work in something mission driven that used my background in kids and youth, but that was for profit. So it couldn't be not for profit. I wanted it to be really reputable and I wanted it to have a heavy dose of like media and marketing in it, which was just odd. And I knew I couldn't yet articulate that I wanted to be a leader, even though I had already established this sort of leadership path. I couldn't see it yet. And I didn't have an MBA, and I'd never been on a golf course, and I certainly wasn't a man. So, like, the idea that I was gonna go on to run a business was, like, at that point, a total joke, and yet there were these ingredients. And I remember running into a law school classmate on the street, telling them what I wanted to do, and they were like, "Were you, like, just not smart enough? Like, you were on law review, we thought you did well, like, what happened to you? You're not smart enough to do it." And had to come apart, called my dad, called him at home, was like, "Oh my God love the man." He was like, "It's a winding road. You have to follow the winding road.
Mm,
Don't give in. If you really get lost, there's gonna be a safety net. It'll appear. You can always go do big company law. Like
yeah,
you've
of
got a
course.
degree from Stanford. You're not gonna be disqualified. Why would you go do that when everyone does?" So I muffled around.
Let me interrupt. Who gave you? Who did you? Where's your personality come from? Your outgoingness and your ability to communicate so well. Where does that
Um,
come from?
I I think it comes down both sides. I joke that I'm New York hustle, California creative. So born in New York, raised in California, and I'm Chicago get it done. So it sort of comes from everywhere, Gary. And I just got really fortunate to be born also with like a superhuman amount of energy. So love people. I find them endlessly fascinating. Um, which is why I love Ditch Digger. It's like, it's the improbable path that's the interesting one. Like, checking the boxes, you don't have those people on your podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's nothing interesting in that. So I think it probably comes from both my dad, my mom, and the crazy upbringing. My father dated from the time I was 6 till the time I was 22 when he remarried the woman I call my second mom, who is delightful. Um, we had a lot of people through our house. And so there were all these examples. We had a mayor, a scientist, modern artist that my dad dated for a long time, an architect, probably about 6 flight attendants. That was quite the period. He dated the ex-wife of Jefferson Starship bassist David Freiberg for a brief period of time. So there's just a lot of people in our
Yeah.
orbit.
Yeah.
So it was like sort of like love people or run away from home.
Just,
There wasn't
just
a
a
lot of
Jefferson Starship, and a lot of people in your orbit. I like that. That's
Yeah.
funny. That's funny. So yeah, you just saw a lot. You experienced a lot of different personalities. You saw some you really liked, right? Of course,
Yeah.
your dad is your
North Star.
um
My
your
North
North Star, right? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's not like, his humility and love of people, right? To be
Yeah.
who he was is
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Married with a really unforgiving standard, which is if you're gonna spend your precious life doing it, don't settle. Like, it better be good, and you
Yeah.
better be good at it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're wasting the one run at this thing that we have. And my father himself, after my mom died at age 6, my father got cancer. He had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so from age 8 to age 11 or 12, he was fighting, and ultimately successfully, lymphoma. And so the household had an ethos of time really matters,
Yeah.
and that you can waste money, but don't waste time. And,
Right.
I think that has been hugely influential. When I feel like I'm in the wrong thing, I'm uncomfortable, and I will rocket myself out of it, out of a discomfort with wasting. The only thing where you can't check your bank account is how much time do we all have left? You can't go check the balance. And so wasting that is a really big deal.
Absolutely. Yeah. We all think that, we got, we're average life expectancy is 80 for a man is 81, 82. So any more than that's a bonus. And we'll get to that, right? Until you realize you don't, right? Until you realize people around you don't. And it's just not a given. It's far from a given. So you're right. So time is the only thing that there's just no, you can't put a value on it, right? So
Yeah.
I like that and I appreciate that you think that way because we have to.
Yeah, no, and I know you know that path.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so now you end up,
Yeah, I'm highly credentialed and lost. Very publicly. And 3 people passed my resume to the Washington Post. And the little known thing about the Washington Post is that the Post, when it was family owned was the wholly sole owner of Kaplan, which was known as a test prep company, but then became a diversified education company. So everybody thinks of Kaplan as the place you go when you have to take the ACT or the SAT, and they're one of those prep companies. But they were owned by the Washington Post, a media company.
explain Chaplin.
Kaplan, so Kaplan,
Chaplin. Wait, say,
um, straight
K,
up
sorry about that.
Kaplan. And Kaplan, it started by a guy named Stanley Kaplan in Brooklyn, New York, and it would prepare students for these standardized tests. Back when it was a little bit anarchistic, to basically say these standardized tests that you have to take to get into college are not just about aptitude. You can sort of study for them. There are tricks. You can learn the way to think so we can help you score better. And so it started as this pure test preparation to get into college. And then as more and more higher education required these standardized tests, Kaplan started to grow. And so they had a whole line of businesses in test prep. And then they expanded into tutoring for kids in kindergarten to kids in 12th grade. So you can have group tutoring, you can have individual tutoring to help you do better in school. And then eventually, Kaplan bought a set of vocational schools, true trade schools. So allied health, like phlebotomist, medical assisting, radiologic technician, dental assisting. I can keep going to the really fun ones: HVAC, electrical technician, die casting, welding. All schools I later ran, by the way, which I'll get to because it's the passion project that snuck up on me. But the Washington Post needed a lawyer who understood how to scale businesses, things that don't usually go together. And so I was hired for their K through 10 technology assisted tutoring company that was headquartered in San Francisco in an office that overlooked the bay, to both do their legal work, but to also help this set of tutoring companies scale nationwide and do it in a way that would keep program integrity, high quality product, go big. And that was when I look at what I wrote, not even knowing that for-profit higher education or for-profit education was even a sector, I got the job I had written 2 years earlier. I was
Wow.
in a market. I was near where I wanted to be. I was in a mission-driven company, which is helping kids succeed and get engaged and love learning.
Okay, so Beth, how much is that? How much is that? Okay, well, I believe this. I believe if you have a goal and you want to do something to make an impact in the world, as you are, if you want to do something that you know is going to fit your skill set, and you're very expressive, and I believe I am as well. I think people that reach their goals and find that amazing opportunity to lead in something, probably kind of visualize some of it and talk about it and talk about different pieces of it. People that see them talking about it, register. If you talk about it enough, you tell the story enough, other people are telling your story. And
Yep.
so in my opinion, how much is that a couple of friends that led you to Washington Post kind of knew your story? Hey, hey Beth, you need to look at this. Hey Beth, I know what you've told me about, your kind of your goals and expectations and what you want to do to serve this industry. I think there might be something here with your law degree. There might be something here, right? And so I feel like something that many people don't do that I know are way smarter than me, that they're trying to build something, but they don't tell the story. They don't tell their vision, even imperfect. The vision's not gonna be perfect, but if they tell their vision, and even in a perfect way, to their friends, make it a short elevator, right? And I believe if you tell it over and over again, people understand it, and they're kind of, from the outside, if they like you, they're probably telling your story to people and they said, "Oh, we got somebody you got to meet. Beth, I got this person you have to meet. Oh, Beth, there's this opportunity at Washington Post, right?" I mean,
Yeah.
I believe that that's what this when we think about connecting with others. If you have a personality like yours that connects with people because they like you, they like your energy, and they like who you are, now they're probably out there cheerleading for you when you don't even know it. And
So true.
I've told when I had nothing, I would tell my story where I wanted to be. Someday I want to do $50 million a year in paving, right? And I had nothing, and I was a total hick, right? And it just didn't look like a successful person at all. And then most people probably laughed under their breath. But some people that were successful already, had seen success, whatever, became kind of fans of mine. That they're like, "Hey, you got to listen to this kid's story. Listen to who he thinks he's going to be," right? And those people were there for me, kind of guiding me, saying, "Hey, I know you think you're going to grow this residential paving business, and here's what you should be thinking about if you really want to. Or here, let me share some experience with you on how I visualize growth in my manufacturing business or whatever." And I think of different mentors, but I believe this. To simplify this, I believe that when us, any entrepreneurs, begin in the beginning of their careers, or in the middle, or even in my age right now, if we tell the stories of where we're at and where we want to be in the next years, and we have a concise, fun story, captivating story, even, as good, right? I believe that those that listen will help guide you in questioning you and saying, "You really think you can do that? What about this?" Or
Yeah.
I think you're a little crazy, right? Or, "I like this. I think you got something there, but
Yeah.
this over here, it's a little crazy. And when you have that feedback from people you trust and you love, you get a lot of you get a lot of value out of that, hopefully, right? And
Yeah.
so you being who you are and talking about who what you'd like to see in your future, I think so many people probably knew that and they're kind of questioning you a lot and then guiding you as well. So it's pretty cool.
I think it's also that, and what I always say to people is like, you don't have to know how it ends to put the ingredients out there in the world. And it's a little bit like, when you're playing pool and you break, right? The balls go out and a certain set come back and they're in positions, right? If you try to figure out every shot you're going to take before you even hit the break, well, good luck. It's got endless possibilities. You're not getting feedback that you need. Once you start putting the ingredients out, you also get things back. And it might add ingredients that you'd never thought of, and people see things that you hadn't seen. And it's really uncomfortable because it requires vulnerability. And I think, especially for people that feel like they should have it together, like the most uncomfortable parts of my career have been saying to the very people I need to help me, I don't know. I'm not sure where this goes. I can see any number of great endings. I've got no idea how you get there. And so I think people stop themselves from doing it, which then doesn't sort of auto tune the world, right? Like you've got to have a dialogue going. And it also means that you start shutting up your own internal voice. You stop looking for signals. So you
So
could miss an opportunity that goes
so
by.
didn't we play pool somewhere?
I think that might have been why that came to mind.
You're actually a good pool player if I remember right.
No, 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 no. I'm a good enough pool player to not embarrass myself.
Well, I actually think I'm good too. I'm not. You're
My
more.
recollection is you are actually good.
You're better than you're going to say. I'm just going to brag and say I'm good, and I'm not. Okay, but again, I think that's a great analogy, right? To think about that, and I think that too many people. Okay, if you're if you're like my wife Julie and friend family members, my son Austin, who's a YPO as well, runs a nice business and stuff. Anyway, but they are, I respect them, so much, but they won't say anything. If they don't think it's quite 100%, right? They won't go out there sometimes and visualize something. They'll visualize, they can visualize stuff, but they won't start talking about it unless it's really, really obvious that they're gonna be able to do whatever it is they're doing. And I'm like, heck with that. Just talk about, even if you're 70% of the way there in the way you think and the way it'll end up, right? Tell the story. Tell the story. You don't have to be exactly correct. You need to, people need to understand that you have a vision. It's not clear, but it's just like this vision of us thinking we could do $1 billion jobs all over the world, right? We're not clear in this, okay? We're just not sure that we need to do this. But guess what? We're doing it. And
Yeah.
and there's a good chance we're going to land some of this stuff, and then we're going to figure it out. And we're going to figure it out because we're blessed to know a lot of people that engineers and project managers and smart people that we know we can throw this at and pay them well enough to get it done. Okay.
Yep.
So when people ask you or I or any entrepreneur, what you're doing, where you're going, I mean, I feel like if you've got a passion and you know that you really want to serve a market, you feel free to talk about it. It doesn't have to be exact.
Go learn.
Go
Like, nobody
learn.
loves anything more than someone that calls them and says, I have half this picture. You're the expert. I don't know how it works. Fill me in. Like, that's everybody's dream moment, right? So I think getting over that and realizing that the conversations I was having weren't being rejected versus, and I think a lot of young people struggle with this, somebody that calls you and says, I don't know what I want to do. Can you decide for me?
Oh,
Right? That's a very different conversation than these are the things that interest me. And then a few pointing like, what's going on in that world? Have you seen things that look like this? What's your theory about what's going on? People that call and say, I don't know, figure it out for me. It's like the universe is too big for that. People that sort of have a little bit that know a few of the ingredients,
mhm.
ask, right?
And then ask for help, like you're saying, right? I mean, our best customers are built when we pilot things with them. When we
Yep.
say, we know enough about this, and we did this with our technology company site that Austin runs. We said to Walmart and some of our best customers, Commonwealth Edison, Exelon, and some of our best customers said, hey, we've got this vision to use AI and drones. And we're pretty, we're pretty far along on it, but we really didn't put it in the market yet. And we said, would you do us, could you do us a better? Would you let us pilot this at no cost to you? Pilot this on your sites. We think we're going to bring back better information for you, and we think we're going to build something that uses AI, this thing called AI, because 10 years ago, 11 years ago, it wasn't that common, right? But
Yeah.
we think we're going to use AI to create something really special for you and our customers. Would you help us build it?
Yeah.
And not only they say yes, they became our first customers, and still today they're our best customers because they can tell the story, the beginnings of site technologies today, and they're part of it. And again, it didn't cost them a lot. They had to be patient with us, and they spent time with us, right? That time is money. But overall, I'll tell you, we were blessed to have these customers that were there with us. And now what do we do now? We still, as we develop this better and better and better and better, we're asking our new customers the same thing. Can we try this out on your properties? And we can tell you that it won't cost you anything. We can tell you it's gonna take less time for you to manage your properties, and it's gonna be not subjective like it's been in the past, not a safety issue with boots on the ground and on your roofs, right? So bottom line is the best value we got is the relationships that we gained
Yeah.
by them being the innovators with us. And so
Yeah.
like you said, but if you're an engineering mind, like many of my best people on my teams are great engineering minds, right? Civil engineering,
Very logical.
very logical. They unfortunately, I've got, as the entrepreneurs, we have to push this stuff out because they're like, it's not perfect yet. It's not perfect, right? Well, it's never going to be perfect, probably. But is it the best in the market? Could it be the best in the market? Well, yeah, there's nobody else doing this. Okay, well, could it be a
Right.
value to the customer now, even if we make mistakes? Well, yeah, but it's just give me another 6 months, give me another year. And so
Yeah.
again, if we can, so it's minds like yours and entrepreneurs, right, that push the envelope to get it out in a very honest, high integrity way to say it's not going to be perfect. We're going to make some mistakes. We hope you'll be patient enough, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
how good things happen.
Yeah. And I think it's really been interesting. I've worked with private equity and private equity backed companies, and it's so interesting to me that how much people do want to help, right? So you look at private equity to a person will always send somebody into the business that will stand in my doorway and say, "Well, I want to help."
Mhm.
Right? Now I have a lot of fun with people that come to my doorway and say, "I wanna help." And I say, "Well, what have
Yeah.
you run? What have you done?" I actually had a conversation with somebody once. It's like, "Have you even had a paper route? Like a lemonade stand? Have you sold anything ever?" And the kid that was there in this case said, "Well, I'm deal shaped." So what is deal shaping? But which is actually also a thing. So mutual respect there. But nobody wants to just be the bank. Nobody wants to just be the customer. I mean, so Gary, I think what I hear in what you've said is when you give people the path to become part of the process, then they're invested in the outcome. They've shaped it. We all go together. We
Yes.
may have sat in our living rooms for however many years and had a hard time getting people back into work, but we all go together. The best
Yes.
customers are also partners. The best partners are also customers. Investors are great partners. And I think everybody is a human. Part of the social contract is you want to be involved. And
For
when
sure.
even the money is like, we want to be involved in the product and not because we doubt you, but please let us help. Like,
Well,
all
and
right.
and Beth, and
How
Beth, they love saying, "Hey, I remember when Beth came to me with this challenge, and we helped her solve it. We were part of that solution that became this, right?" That's
right.
exciting for anybody. It's people think, "Oh, well, if you're not paying them for it and they're not making anything for it, maybe it's not a good thing," right?
Right.
No, people actually like being, making an impact in their industry, and if you're spending the money, investing the money to make an impact, and they can be part of that, they find, many of my customers find joy in that. And by the way, we're always going to be more fair to them when it comes to pricing out this product when it's all done, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was
It's
so
fun.
true.
So it's fun. Okay, so the calculate, I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
had a lot of fun there.
So this was just the, like, greatest career run I never really could have imagined. So I started in the tutoring business. We had 35 centers, SCORE educational centers. We scaled that business with my business partner, who is an amazing operator. That business went to 178 centers nationwide. and was, sort of took it from this idea to a fully scaled network of tutoring centers. I
Okay,
went,
that was outside of Kaplan.
that was in Kaplan.
That was
That
in
was one of,
Kaplan. So
one of their divisions. And
okay, it
so,
went from how much to how much?
so it went from sort of money losing, sort of $35 million money loser to north of $80 million money maker and it was very real estate heavy, capital intensive, from 35 centers to 178 centers. And I went from being their lawyer, who was doing biz dev, I crossed into running portions of the field operation and ended up as the general manager.
How many years? Is this like a 10-year period?
So this was over probably, let me just think about this, probably about a 6-year period,
Wow.
2000 to 2006. And loved that business. And loved, so that was a rude awakening. It's really easy when you're sitting in your job to be like, I could do that job. Like I'm so good, I could do that job. And I
Yeah, of
remember thinking
course.
about field operations, that the guys that were doing the deals and the guys that were running the field operation were making more money and having more fun. And I was like, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I don't want to be advising people how to do something. I want to do it. And of course, as most of your lawyers do, you think, well, I could do that better. So like I begged, and then a portion of that company was moving to Chicago. The headquarters were moving from the San Francisco Bay Area to Chicago. And that move was being made 6 weeks after I had my daughter. So I'm pregnant. I know I'm about to deliver. They're moving the company and they're like, what can we do to get you to move with it? And I'm like, absolutely nothing. You can do nothing. There is nothing you can do. This conversation's over. I'm sad. Goodbye. They came back, like the proverbial, there have to be like sort of like religious fables about you come once, you come twice, you come 3 times. On the 3rd time, I was like, I'm going to think up the craziest thing to say and they'll never give it to me. I'm like, I want to run the business as a field operator. And I want you to pay this is like the biggest thing I could think of back then. I want you to pay my moving expenses. Now I'm like, oh, naive child. And I want you to give me an extra year's salary. And then I want you to move me back if it doesn't
You
work.
want to what salary? What salary?
An extra year of salary for the extra year of work. Like my first negotiation, not being a lawyer, it's much easier to negotiate when you're a lawyer and you're doing, I've done multi-million-dollar negotiations at this point, but for my own, I'm like asking for a moving truck. Had I known Dean from National Lease, I would have just called him and been like, will you move my stuff? And they were like, yep, sure. First clue that I had under negotiated. So I move with this infant to run a field operation that I really have no business running, that so much thanks to the men around me, they gave me a shot when I had no right having a shot because they're like, yeah, she might be good. And I'm sure the backdoor conversation was like, and if she's not, we can always fire her. So they put me into this field operation. I have an infant. I'm new to Chicago, and it's bone crushing pressure. Generating revenue. Everybody that's in a C-suite can say anything they want. The money and often the fun goes to the people that are generating revenue because it's bone crushing and the lows are so low and the highs are almost like, dizzying. But that was my second real world education.
And this is 2000 and what?
Oh, probably 2003, 4, 5, a little bit into 2006. And tutoring is an extremely hard business to run because it's real estate based. We were not a franchise, which for many reasons. So all the real estate experimentation was coming out of our profit and loss statement. And it was a great business. It was a really fun business, but it was a really hard business. Like at one point, I think $35,000 was a margin point. So you like had a big Staples bill and you were blowing margin point. It was the most insanely difficult business to run, which was a great education. In that Kaplan portfolio, in the Washington Post owns Kaplan and Kaplan owns all these divisions, there were also a network of schools, of these private, for-profit vocational schools, which everybody in sort of elite education looked down on. Those were those trade schools that were operating over there. And um, the man that I had worked for in the tutoring business moved over to higher education. And I saw the mission, which I had always looked down on, by the way, till I worked in it. And I saw the margin, much easier business to run in terms of it requiring enormous investments, but also it was a very robust business because there were so few providers of that kind of an education.
Sure.
And so I went over, having operated, to work in higher ed. And when I did that, it was like the cocktail party conversation went from, oh, those cute businesses that you run, we all have kids, we all love tutoring, to why are you working for a strip mall college? Like, what are you doing over there in the trades? Like, those are the trades. And it like went back to my childhood in the VA with my dad doing rounds. These were the medical assistants. These were the phlebotomists. These were the surge techs, right? And so I went to run this set of schools. I took them as their president at about $400 million, a network of schools. Grew that $400 million to nearly $1 billion, more than $900 million
Wow.
by adding locations, by adding programs. And we were teaching in the oil fields in Texas. So, Midland, Texas, you've got boom, you've got bust, you've got
Wow.
oil riggers that then
Okay. Okay. So again, no time to, this is 2000 and what?
This is 2000.
Seven?
And let me think. It was starting in actually, so I probably transitioned out of tutoring in 2007, picked up in higher ed right about there, and was there till 2011, almost 2012, and loved that business. And I think so few people, and we're right in the middle of the resurgence of the trades as part of the public discussion about what's education. Because these are the folks that power everything we do. I mean, and Gary, your trade business among them. If the roads aren't paved, if the buildings aren't built, if there aren't healthcare providers to run the guts of the machine that is the hospital, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what else is happening. It can't happen. And I think, it was so interesting being part of the trades and having people that were coming out of elite education say, well, what are you doing? What are you doing over there? I'm like, I am doing some of the most important work there is to be done because we can't have a healthy ecosystem in the United States of America absent a robust, well-trained set of vocational and allied health and trades. Just try turning on your TV when you don't have an electrical technician to wire that thing up. Like, you're done. So love that business. Love that business. And it came under a lot of regulatory scrutiny, where for-profit education, there were great skeptics. Some of my classmates, my former classmates among them at Stanford. And so the sector really came under attack as being, sort of the for-profit part of it came under attack. But what happened was that it really, as it became unpopular, we lost a lot of the trade skills and we lost that pipeline of folks in the trades that we're now starting to kind of focus on again and say, hey, look, this education is every bit as important as the elite education, as the bachelor's degree, as the master's degree. We also need the trades. And
Well, this is way ahead of what we see today, right? I mean, private equity today, I have conversations with a lot of friends of mine that are in private equity and people that are wanting to buy our businesses, right? And I gotta tell you, they have a high interest in these dirty businesses, right? These businesses that are going to require labor and skill sets that it's being respected now more than ever because, unfortunately, a lot of these accounting jobs and legal jobs are going to fall by the wayside, right? And they believe that there's value in these businesses today more than ever.
Yeah.
So you were in front of this thing
Yeah.
when you look at the value of trades, all right, and
Yeah.
educational trades, huge opportunity going forward still.
Yeah. I love that business. By the time I was looking at leaving that business, I sort of looked at my life path. I was like, well, tutoring, I made something small into something big. Higher education, I made something big into something huge. It's like, I've never done something from nothing. And we looked at the practices that we were using educationally, technologically, in the sort of transactional aspects of education, and to support what was a 78 campuses, 44,000 students a year, 44,000 graduates actually a year out of my campuses. And I thought, what if we were to bring that know-how to the traditional education sector, to the not-for-profits, to the sort of both state schools, the regional publics, the elite schools, and we were to say, look, here's what we know about how you run education at scale. Because a lot of those systems, I mean, you look at a UT Austin, right? 40,000 students. You look at my business, it was about 40,000 students. So my former business partner and I left Kaplan and started Everspring in 2012, got private equity backing to really say we can fundamentally change and improve, make it more consistent, more scalable, more efficient, more engaging, better student outcomes in traditional higher education. Those not-for-profits, everything from community colleges through the traditional not-for-profits, if they use some of what we learned delivering education massively at scale, we could really change how education is delivered in the United States and really up the quality. So we came and we founded Everspring at my dining room table with my daughter serving Girl Scout cookies, with basically a little bit of funding and an idea, and a lot of experience with education in a way that a lot of the folks that have grown up in traditional universities don't really have. We had this perspective, different regions, different socioeconomic groups, different levels of education, different sectors, different accreditors and regulators. And so, thought we're going to bring it to bear and create this company that has been tremendously difficult, great, fun, and at the moment is right in the middle of this sort of big debate of does higher ed know what they're doing?
Yeah, I love it. And when you think about where you're at, did you really think that? I mean, did you guys were you guys looking at the you know AI and all the things that are changing education tomorrow? Were you looking at that stuff
No,
back then at all? What because
no.
it's but you knew that to go online with a portion of this was critical, right?
We knew there was very little that was online. We knew that people conceived of online as being, I arrive at a Zoom, which is not true. So online education has a phenomenal toolkit, branching case scenarios, whiteboards that let me, draw on them and you can see them in reverse, short form videos, the ability to drop assessment into a continuous video, annotated video. So we just knew that education online, that students didn't think of themselves as online or on ground. They thought of themselves as students.
Yeah.
That everything that was very place-based would become hybrid. We couldn't see COVID coming either, by the way.
I was gonna say, yeah.
No,
Let's go there. Let's go there. It's 8
And so
years
it's
later.
dumb. It was a convergence of dumb luck and basically knowing that the technology that was being used in higher education was fundamentally behind the curve and we could all do better. We're like, we can do better together. We know how to do better. So we start doing better and then COVID hits. And instantly, all of that moves online. I think it accelerated the adoption. So initially online was like tolerated. Then it kind of became accepted. COVID took it from being accepted in higher education to being expected.
expected. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And not just Zoom, but an actual high quality learning experience. Systems like registration and checking your balance and understanding how many courses you have to take still. Those are all things that technology is super friendly for.
Mhm.
And so I think the student population, at the same time as you've got this sort of critique of what am I getting for my tuition? So student focus on ROI starts to rise. What am I getting for what am I paying? Am I going to get a job? Am I going to get a great experience? Like, it's great to have a pool and a climbing wall, but for most of America, they go to get an education so that they can get a raise or a job or an outcome. And so we had all this technology that can support that right at this moment where it became really important to American higher education to do it because it's unacceptable to be using technologies to buy groceries and not putting that technology in service to better teaching and learning and more
Yes.
efficient educational delivery. Like
Of
that's
course.
a problem. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And
so how much growth did you have over that time from like that first 7, 8 years to the next, to years 8 through whatever, 10,
yeah.
11?
So we are a company that's right there are a couple of really big dogs in the space in which we play, that I call the kind of conveyor belt companies. They're in the $100 million plus sector in our world, and they deliver a very sort of standard service. We are right in the middle of the small players and the big players, right about 50 million in revenue, profitable, by the way, one of the few players in our space that is. And what we deliver are fundamentally better outcomes and more efficiency. So we're definitely closer to a boutique than a conveyor belt. And we've delivered just outstanding outcomes for our partners. Their programs scale, their students graduate. We have 95% plus student satisfaction in the programs that we support the universities in delivering, 95% plus faculty satisfaction. Faculty are not satisfied with anything ever. So that's an amazing number. High graduation and great career outcomes. And so we had, I would say, probably a substantial part of that growth uh, in these years, in the years from COVID onward. I think we're at another inflection point and because the other thing that we had, so first of all, we're in this online thing that catches on, becomes expected, and is quality. The second thing that we didn't see coming was AI feeds on two things: data and protocols and processes and structures. And that is exactly what Everspring is. So we are transforming the company to be AI native because what we have is 10 years of data on the services that we've delivered to thousands of students, hundreds of programs. And we have ways of doing things where we took our know-how and we embedded it in our project management processes, in our course development processes, in our marketing. So now you bring in AI and what we hope to do, and this is again the crazy big dream. Like, you don't need providers if you have the know-how. And so in a weird way, we sort of think our sector is going to get blown up in a very positive way, where we can bring the innovation that universities used to need the big consultant groups to get to. No reason we can't bring that to their desktop. We can embed the know-how in how to reach out to students, how to build websites, how to place efficient digital marketing. We can bring all of this know-how to our partners at a fraction of the cost that we would have needed to charge them before AI. And if we
Mhm.
look just at marketing, I mean, it's sort of interesting. We're marketing also for a few non-educational institutions. We have been able to partner with universities, cut their marketing paid spend, what they're paying on advertising. We implement our AI processes. We can cut their paid advertising spending in half and have them have student growth in their programs.
Sure.
So, and we're also doing it for some small businesses too. So it's really been good fortune, dumb luck, that the way we built this company was so technology based, where most of our competitors are still people powered.
Yeah. Okay. Now, and I think still wonder, how do you also then inject the personality side into education, or the the need, the wants to go outside the technology to on the relationship building side, on the connectivity side, and all that. I mean, as I believe it, if technology is amazing, right? But if our education is mostly technology, and most humans today educate themselves looking at a phone, looking at their phone, their computer, right? That's great, but if you overdo that and you can't communicate with people as you grow up with that, you can't communicate with adults or people around you. Boy, it doesn't matter. It's not the
Right.
value tomorrow. The value tomorrow is going to be what we talked about, what you have, that ability to connect with people, that the law of attraction. People, when you're in a room, people love hanging out with you. You're always passionately excited about the future, excited about what's going on in your family and your business, and everybody wants to hang out with you. Okay, that's the law of attraction that not everybody has. How do you teach that within these systems, right?
So we spent such a tremendous amount of time talking about this topic, and I love this topic because when you actually look at everything from how we do a deal to how we use technology to how it is that we engage humans, there is nothing that is not fundamentally about trust and communication. So in our deal doing, our deals are entirely made on our reputation. It is a referral-based business. So we are in with universities. We can't AI that
Yeah.
at all. We can bring them better information when we get into that room because AI can scan and tell us what their market position is. At the end of the day, that's a human interaction. If I take that and then say the programs we build have to be informed by what's best taught, what can you do with a machine, and what do you need a human to do? And how do those two interface? Because the use of technology has always been an exercise in change management. Change management is all about how do we sit down and talk about things. So we don't run a single program where you are not going to have some form of human interaction, human support, and the optionality, really important word, optionality, to always be connected to a human by hitting a button. So if I can arrive when you click that button and say, I want career support, or I don't understand this particular component, I want to get on the line with you, AI lets us come to those conversations more prepared. We bring better information. We bring more information. I can instantly know where you are in your program, what experiences you brought to it, where you are in your learning journey, which makes our human interaction way more powerful. So ironically, we are using technology to make our time together more personal. And I think that's the superpower that sits in here.
That's a great way to say it. You don't hear that very often, right? But I get it, and I'm not hearing anybody say it this way. I love it. That seriously, if we use AI for what it's for, the data sets and data building and understanding, what the odds of doing it one way or another, right? I mean, but now guess what? That's less of the communication, human to human. Now you can actually connect and get to know each other and support each other in the ways that we as humans have to. So the human support as a option always is, I think, such an important thing, and I love it. And you're right, that's going to be a difference. That's going to be a difference maker for the future. If you think you can clean up everything so much, think if they got to talk to a human, man, let them go through like 10 different AIs to get there, because they're gonna find their solution somewhere in there, and then we're gonna save the money, right? Boy, you know what? That's
How
gonna
it
be a bad
works, right?
decision. It's gonna be a
Yeah.
bad decision for the future.
And I think when we can arrive with more personalization, everybody wins. And I don't ever see a world in which we have edited out the humans. There's too much for which, even if it could be done by a machine, and it often can't, but even if it could be, humans still want human interaction. And I see it in
Sure.
my workplace. We have 20 somethings that are like, can we come to the office more? I was like, absolutely, right? Like, at the end of the day, we are a set of tribes knit together with the human connection in which the ability to relate personally is the thing that binds us together, and people hunger for that. So yeah, I'm very pro-human. Run a technology business. I am very pro-people.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Well, I think that's so important in the long run. Okay, so where do you see yourself? Where do you see the business yourself 5 and 10 years out?
So I am a lover of disruption. It excites me. I love watching something get shaken up. So I think this business will look really different. I think we'll have incredibly powerful technology tools that are basically intermediated with humans. I think we're going to be able to deliver to universities that are feeling like they're being left behind ways of running the university that are going to preserve the best of what they have. I think we'll see in higher education the need for institutions to become differentiated, just like businesses. Not every institution will do everything for everybody. I think they're going to become specialized. Um, I will be so proud if our business can continue to support universities in delivering outcomes for their students. And so I think a lot of what we're going to do will become more and more career focused. And as we meet AI on the road, everybody freaks out when I say the word skills or careers. And, traditional academics start diving under desks and being like, you've said these these words that are the enemy of a liberal arts education. I really think with AI, the ability to teach linguistics, if you can't articulate and communicate, you are going to be a horrible prompt engineer. So I think a little bit what we're seeing in AI is the revenge of the linguists, the increasing value of critical thinking, decision making. And so I do think as where I look down the road, we're going to be teaching both the basics and the technology and helping universities modernize at the pace that they're going to need to. Because if they don't move at the pace of technological change, they will go extinct. And that's
Sure.
bad for everybody.
For sure.
Yeah.
I love it. And for you, what do you want to do? You're still a young kid, but what do you want to retire someday? Do you want to be in an island somewhere? What's your personal
Uh,
moonshot?
um, I feel like part of the secret of CEOing, and I've done this right and I've done it wrong, uh, is understanding how to spend your time. So I always want to be engaged in the world. Um, I would love to do what we've done here again. I have a couple of acts left in me. So I see a future where I'm on some boards, but I'm also baking a business. Uh, and absolutely, I'm a skier, I'm a scuba diver. I love spending time out in nature. That has to be part of the equation, or the rest of it doesn't work. So I see more of that kind of crazy being out in the world as life goes on. I am not a golfer. Retirement, getting to spend my time the way I want to, super important. And I think that's how a lot of people define retirement. For me, it's getting to be engaged in a business, engaged in mentorship and board service, and getting to have enough time with my family and my friends. So if I can put that mixture together for as long as I can, I'm already super thankful. I already feel like I've won at the life thing. Because I love the mixture, and I would continue this as long as I can.
You're going to be you are such a blessing to many, but you're going to continue to be such a blessing to many as you become that board, a board member and mentoring other leaders, right? And then you'll probably do some things that I'm guessing you'll always be doing some little deals here or there with friends that want to say, "Hey, Beth, you're perfect for this. Would you help me with this? Beth,
Well,
would you start this little business with me?" Right? I
yeah,
mean,
you guys as my friend group are what keeps me on my toes. Like this network of YPOers is yeah.
yeah, I mean, and if you look about if you look to people that we admire that are older that have been done things that we've done, right? I look to the people I respect as mentors in my life over the years, and it's those there that were some of them passed now, but up till 90, 95 years old, they're engaged in what's going on in the world. They were making a difference and they're making an impact in the world because they used the wisdom they had to really do amazing things forward, right? And so I feel like I'm 63 now, right? And I feel like a kid still, but what I have today that I didn't have at 40 is wisdom of how to spend my time and what seems like a good deal, how to negotiate something that I probably wouldn't be able to negotiate before. Um, when to start a business that's actually in my wheelhouse instead of just starting any business, right?
Yeah.
All these things, you've done all these things. Now it's the time to use our wisdom. Not you're young, but for me, it's the time for me to use my wisdom now to create value and impact where I think it's important in the world. So
Yeah.
some of that's my own business, some of that's philanthropics, whatever. But I feel
Yeah.
like that's the fun in life is my friends that some of you, I've been one of my very good mentors, is 89, and he still thinks 15, 20 years ahead of time what he thinks will be the case in 15 or 20 years, like he's going to be living in that, and he maybe is planning on it still. Okay, and then so but that's exciting to be around. I want to be around him as much as possible because he's so much fun to be around. He's thinking so much, further ahead than most people at his age of 89, right? And so, and I also believe that our minds, if they need to be exercised, just like everything else, right?
Yeah. Well, my stepmother, who I lovingly call my second mom, always says, "Well, you need friends who are older than you because they have perspective that you don't have yet, and they can help you on your forward journey. And you need friends that are younger than you to keep you young." And so she's like, "You need both to balance you in the middle." And so I do think on mentorship, on friendship, on colleagueship, the same is true.
Awesome. So, Chris, what are you getting out of this, dude?
Oh my goodness, so much. Beth, you are just awesome. You are everything we could ever hope for in a
Well, I
guest.
mean, we've got a great counterpart in Gary here, so thank you.
Yeah, your story is amazing. You're filled with wisdom and insights, and I was hanging on every word. That was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Um,
Well, this
so
was great for me. It's, you do these and you stop and you take a step back and it's like, all right, it's always a really good chance to kind of say, huh, check in. Are you living your values? So this was great. It gave me a ton as well, by the way.
Awesome, awesome. Um, we strive to hear, as many different perspectives as possible. We're always very excited to get, a female leader of your incredible stature and accomplishments. It sounds like your daughter is coming up in the world. Do you have any insights or advice you'd share with other entrepreneurial minded or leadership minded, female up and coming female leaders out there?
Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, I think that female leaders underestimate the let decreasingly so as time goes on, but I think they generally underestimate the power of being the only woman in the room. Um, People in power, and in particular, I think men in power, will share a lot with a woman. And that is, information asymmetry, the ability to understand people, to get their story, to have information in any kind of a leadership or a management structure is such an advantage. And so I think I would say to women coming up that, especially if they've got an eye on, well, I'm the only woman or it's male dominated, it's like, good. Good. Use those skills because you're different. You're going to be more recognized. I mean, I joke I can't go anywhere incognito. Part of it's the hair. But it's also that in any room, I've more often than not been the one that got trusted because I was the one that was less threatening because I was the woman. So we talk a lot about disadvantage. I don't think we talk enough about advantage because of gender and because of the skills that you often bring to those conversations. So that would be my advice. Don't overlook your superpower of being the only woman and of the trust that is probably associated with that. Occasionally the underestimation. I've had people give away entire business plans on airplanes because I'm in first class, but I don't look like I run anything. Like I'm like there with my ponytail. I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. What do you do? And then, oh, out comes the business plan. I actually had a major competitor who did not know who I was tell me their whole business plan because I asked. He never once asked me, what do you do? Um, so I think it can be just an amazing advantage. That's my advice to all the girls out there.
I like
Don't
it.
get
Yeah,
distracted.
that's amazing advice. Wow, thank you for that. You rarely hear that. It's just the disadvantages, but to focus on the advantages, that's an even more powerful perspective.
We all bring a huge toolkit to the roles we play. If you play in half your toolkit, you're missing half your toolkit. So yeah.
Right, and I think also if a group of leaders don't see that as an advantage to have a perspective of somebody different in any way, whether it's a female or somebody from a different society or
Or
whatever,
it's a male. I
or
mean, there
now,
are
or
businesses
whatever
that
it
are
is, right?
entirely female run. I'm a big
But
believer in balance.
whatever, a handicapped person, any type of
Yeah.
person that has a differentiating, you know, something different differentiating them in their lives
Yeah.
is a value to have on a board, a value to have as a different perspective. And so I feel like if a group of people, group leaders isn't like embracing that, they're not somebody you want to be part of anyway. They're not gonna build anything substantial, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. 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 My niece is a nurse, and my niece, and she's a nurse in New York, and she said, "My career and my ADHD are best friends." She's like, "'Cause I've gotta move in a hospital. I gotta do this and that, and I've gotta
Yeah,
be able to task switch seamlessly." And she's like, "It's perfect for my ADHD."
yeah.
Like,
It's
she's like, "I'm super detail oriented and I like to move topics very quickly." I thought that was
that's
great.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
What else you
awesome.
got?
Yeah, I'll run through my favorite insights shared. Beth, I love the story of growing up with your dad and in the medical industry and your perspective of if you can't get on the floor with a schizophrenic veteran, then how good can you be at your job? I think that is that's a really good way to look at it. I love that, you're super experienced in the world of education, and you're like, the dumbest question you can ask a college student is, "What do you want to do?" And that's all anyone asks college students. So that I loved it, and I always hated when people asked me that because I was like, I don't know, I'm like 17 or 19. Like, I don't even know how to like write a check. Why are you asking me that?
So true. So
Yeah. Um, you have to follow the winding road. I love your New York hustle, LA creative, Chicago get it done. That's the perfect mashup. I would say that is like America in a nutshell. It's incredible. Um, it's the improbable path that is the interesting one. That we can only understand life looking back. And then I love you can waste money, but don't waste time. That's you can't check the balance of how much time you have left. That's a very important thing to keep in mind. So really, really, really love this interview. Thank you so much, Ben.
So Chris, I'm gonna throw a few that you covered out most of them, but a couple that I had here too, or you know, didn't want to be the woman to do a job that anyone could do, right? I mean, that makes so much sense because differentiation really, I think is the cheat code. If you can differentiate personally to not do just the job everybody else can do, success happens. I feel like you're rewarded in so many ways. The other thing is, the analogy of, the breaking the balls in pool, because I like the game of pool, right? Yeah, but I never thought of it this way, right? It's like business, right? If you got an idea, I'm a pretty good pool player. I know if I break these balls, I'm going to figure out a way a roadmap to maybe run the
someone's
table.
gonna go in.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, one's getting one first, but yeah, maybe another one. But then I'm gonna figure out the roadmap. If one goes in to run this table, if I don't run it, at least I get a big jump on my competition, right? It's kind of the same way in business. If we just break the balls, just get started, right? And then we're gonna react, as you said, then react, right? And then we're gonna react and figure out the roadmap. And it's not gonna be perfect, but boy, if we're ahead of the competition, that's important. Um, the other thing I had was the trust and communications and trust happens with human connectivity, right? 100%. I agree with that so much. And I think the future relies on this. If we can teach our kids, right, and anybody we mentor on the value of trust, of the trusting relationships, and when you have a trusting relationship, people you can communicate really well. You have great conversations because they trust you that they can call you out if they think there's something that's not right. You trust them enough to do that. They trust you enough that you can do that too. And that's how progress happens, in my opinion. And then the last thing you said so passionately was, I love disruption. I love disruption. Okay.
I do. Like, you can't sail on a lake that has no wind. Like, you can't.
Yeah, yeah. But I love disruption, and you're so right. I mean, if you love disruption, you embrace it, you'll be part of the solution, right? And if you don't love it, you're like, oh no, I don't want to disrupt anything. Right? It's perfect the way it is. Okay. You're
Yep.
just not going to be, you're not going to be a leader in any industry. Your customers aren't going to ask you what's next, right? And so uh, you're amazing, Beth. You know, I've got many friends that love you and know you better than I do. I've had the blessing to meet you, you know, a handful of times and spend a little time with you here or there. I've always gone away, man, she is so cool. She's so passionate. And so I just have had that, right? But my friends that know you better than me, all you know, think the world of you. So I appreciate who you are in the world, and really appreciate you being on Ditch Digger CEO. So the world is blessed to hear your story. So you got to tell it often, okay? Tell it all the time, okay? Because
That's a deal, Gary. And likewise, I really have appreciated being here and having you in this group of such interesting people that I get to cross paths with. I feel really fortunate.
well, thank you so much, Beth. I look forward to seeing you soon. We'll be back in Chicago coming up. So like I'm gonna have to catch some YPO
Oh, yeah.
minutes.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
you're still in Heartland?
Well, so the forum that sort of Mike Moynihan and Andy Priester and friends have joined is going to merge with Metro, I think Chicago Gold for a year or two in
Yeah.
next year. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I have
Yeah.
yet to get all the details, but I
Well,
will. And either
let's-
way, Gary, let's just resolve. I'm going to see you when here, there, or somewhere.
Absolutely.
Now I have
So
to know
nice-
how this deal ends.
Exactly. So nice to see you again, Beth, and thank you so much for spending your time with us today and spreading your
Likewise.
story, because it's one that's going to motivate many. So thank you.
Thanks. Best to you both, and I'll be talking to you soon. Take care.
Until next time, we'll see you at Ditch Digger CEO.